Hey guys, so for today's video, I'm going to be doing like this heat map kind of design. I saw this picture on Pinterest and I thought it looked really cool. It was kind of like a rainbow trippy blob type of design, and it was kind of reminding me of like heat maps, and I thought it would look really cool on some nails. So to start off, I'm just taking the black from ball pit and painting all of the nails with that. I did do 2 coats of this and I cured each coat for 60 seconds. After all the nails are painted, I do wipe them off with some alcohol to remove the sticky layer. I always do this whenever I'm doing any kind of nail art on top. Just makes it easier to paint on top of the nail. The sticky layer can sometimes act a little bit as a blooming gel, and it can also kind of make it a little more difficult to paint on top of because it's a little more slippery and the polish doesn't always cooperate very well. So I do like to wipe that sticky layer off. You can, if you want to, go in with a matte top coat and apply a matte top coat on to the nails, but I don't personally do that because I don't like to add that extra layer to the nail and potentially end up adding extra bulk to the nail. So I just wipe off that sticky layer and it works just as fine as if you were to apply a matte top coat. After I got all of the nails wiped off, I'm going in with the Angel White liner gel. And when you're using liner gels, before you use them, you do want to make sure you stir them up because they do tend to separate when they've been sitting. And it can make your lines like uneven and streaky. So you do want to just go ahead and mix those up real quick before using them. And now I'm just going in with a 9mm liner brush and just drawing on those little like blobs. I wasn't really trying to do a specific look with them. I was just kind of going with the flow and kind of letting the brush lead the way almost. So I was just kind of moving it and like going with how it felt comfortable to move the brush around until I got my little blobs. I did around like 2 to 3 of these blobs on each nail, kind of depending on what nail I was doing, the size of the blobs, the size of the nail, and all that. And then once I got all of these little blobs on, I did go ahead and cure for a full 60 seconds. So if you don't have a liner gel, you can just use regular white gel polish for your nail art. And if you don't have any liner gels at all, like you don't have to necessarily go out and purchase a bunch of liner gels. You can just use your regular gel polishes that you have for your nail art. I do use my just plain old regular gel polishes a lot for nail art because I don't really have a lot of liner gels. I do just have like a black and white one, and that's pretty much it. I do have 2 different black ones. I have the one from Ball Pit and then I have the one from Nails by Dev. They're pretty much the same, I feel like. But anyhow, like I said, you don't have to go out and purchase a whole bunch of liner gels if you are wanting to do nail art. Like you can just use whatever gel polishes you have. But like I said, the liner gel is a little bit thicker. It does make it a little bit easier to do your nail art just because it does tend to stay in place a lot better and it doesn't like spread or kind of like run on you like a gel polish can. I've noticed though with the thicker gel polishes, you don't really have that issue of it like spreading and kind of like running on you. It's more so with the thinner gel polishes that happens. But you can still get away with doing nail art with the thinner ones. You just kind of have to work a little bit harder, I would say, to get it to work. Also, with liner gels, because they are thicker, you really only have to do one coat of them when you're doing it versus when you're using regular gel polish. Sometimes, depending on the base color of the nail or like the color that you're using for whatever your nail art you're doing, like yellow is usually a problem where you have to do multiple coats with it, because yellows do tend to be a little more sheer-ish. Like, they're not like, I mean, even if you have a super opaque yellow, it does tend to be a little thinner, like opaqueness wise, than other gel polishes for some reason. So you might have to do a couple layers in order to get full opaqueness on the color that you're using. Whereas, like I said, with liner gels, you really only have to do one coat of that. Also, sometimes with liner gels, like, I'm doing all this on a black base, and with some liner gels, like, you can just take whatever color. Like, if I had a red liner gel, I could just put that red liner gel right on top of this black base, and it's going to show up a bright red on there instead of using a regular gel polish. You're not really going to be able to see that because this black is so dark, and the red, when you paint it on with like a liner brush and you're doing your nail art, it is pretty thin and a little sheer, or like a little more see-through, not like completely opaque. So it will take a couple coats to get that full bright redness that you want. So that's why I have to go in with this white in order to get these colors to show up fully and as bright as I want them to show up on this black background. But if I had these colors in liner gels, I may not have needed to do that, depending on like the opaqueness and like how bright they are and how brightly they show up on the black base. Sometimes, depending on, you know, how dark your base is and like the color you're using for your liner gels, or like the shade you're using, you might have to do a couple coats with your liner gels. But for the most part, you really don't have to do multiple coats when it comes to liner gels. So I am just going to let this play out for a bit. I think I only showed me doing like 2 nails of this like blob process, just because like you kind of got the idea, and I didn't want this video to be super long because the next step did take a while, and it does last for a while, like while I was filming it. So I didn't want it to be like this video to be like super excessively long and like super repetitive, because it is just kind of the same thing over and over and over again, and I didn't want to bore you guys. So anyhow, I am just going to let this play out for a bit, and then I will be back in a few seconds. Okay, so for the colors that I'm using on the blobs, I am going to use Lifeguard Crush, Neon Heat, Spiked Lemonade, Best Buds, and Mermaid Lagoon, all from Ball Pit. And then I'm also going to use Boss Battle from Nails by Dev. I really just wanted to use like really bright neon colors, and like these are the brightest colors that I have. Lifeguard Crush and Neon Heat look very similar on camera. Lifeguard Crush is a very bright neon red, but it pulls orange on camera, but like in person and in the finished result, you can see the difference like when they're right up next to each other, but when I'm showing them there on camera, they do look very similar. So I'm just going in with my 9mm liner brush and just going in and following that blob shape. I start with the red, and then once I get the red on, I flash cure that. Then I move on to the orange and just repeat that same process until I have all of the colors on. I do only show one nail here on camera, but when I was doing this, I did do all of the red on all of the nails first, and then flash cured that, and then went in with the orange, did the orange on all of the nails, flash cured that, and just like I said, repeated that same process for all of the nails. That way I wasn't constantly going back and forth and switching colors and having to clean off my brush a million times. I could just do all the red all at once, be done with that across all of the nails, move on to the next color, get that done and out of the way, and just do that for all the colors until I got to the very end, and then could finish them all at the same time. And then once I did get all of the colors on, I did go ahead and cure one last time for a full 60 seconds just to make sure that everything was 100% completely cured. I will say for this, I really wanted like the purple to be a little more visible. There is one spot, I think on the middle nail, where the purple is like a bigger spot, whereas on most of these nails, the purple is like this tiny little dot. And I did want it to be a lot more, but like the size of the blobs that I did just really didn't fit all of the colors very well. I think if I were to do this again, I might start out with a white base and then go in with the colors and start with the purple first so I could have that be as visible as I wanted it, and then do the blue and then the green and then the yellow, then the orange and then the red. And just like instead of working outwards in, work inwards out. I feel like sometimes that works a lot better, but then I would have to go around all of those blobs with the black afterwards. So I don't know, that might have been a little more work to do it that way rather than how I did it this way. I could have just done the blobs a lot bigger, but honestly, I thought that the size that I was doing them was going to be good enough because I didn't think that like the lines were going to be super thick, like the different colors were going to be super thick, and I thought everything was going to fit, and like I was going to have like even amounts of color showing for all of them instead of having like tiny little dots of purple in the middle, if that makes any sense. So I don't know, that was kind of disappointing for me. I mean, it still turned out really well, and I really liked how they look in the end, but I do just do wish that the purple, like even the blue, and on some of them the green, it just, by the time I got to those colors, there was very little space for me to add those in. So I do wish that like those were, those last couple colors that I did were a little more visible, but honestly, it's really no big deal. Like, it's perfectly fine. Like I said, they came out really well, and I do really like how they look in the end. Also, I know on like the reference picture that I showed at the beginning, there wasn't purple on that one. It did have two different shades of green, and I didn't want to do two different shades of green, mainly because most of my greens are like the same neon green kind of color. They do vary a little bit in like their darkness and their lightness, but like for the most part all I have is neon greens. I don't really have very many variations of green. So I didn't want to do two shades of green, and so that's why I did the purple. I also kind of feel like sometimes with like neon rainbows like this, pink looks a little better, like a neon pink instead of a neon red. I did have pink on my palette because I thought I was going to end up using that, or like it was on the picture, because I wasn't like looking at the picture when I pulled out the colors and was like laying them down on my palette. But then when I went back and looked, I'm like, oh, there's not that many colors. So the pink didn't get used, but I did have pink just in case. But anyhow, like I was saying, sometimes I feel like when you're doing a neon rainbow, like a neon pink looks a little better than a neon red. So if you didn't want to do the red and you did want to have pink, like you could do pink instead of red. I did just do red for this one because that's what it was on the reference picture, and I did like how it looked, but also like my neon red and my neon orange are a little similar in color there. Like you can see, it is a little bit difficult to see the difference of the two because they do look a little similar. That's also why I feel like neon pinks sometimes look a little better than a neon red when you're doing super bright neon rainbows, because you can really see the difference between the pink and the orange right up next to each other versus the red and the orange, because neon red does tend to pull a little orange. That's just kind of how neon red is. Like, it is very orange undertone, so it does tend to look super orangey, and it can be hard to see it up against a neon orange. But it worked out in the end, and like I said, in person you can see the difference between the red and the orange a lot better. Also, in my end shots, I feel like you can see the difference between the orange and the red a lot better, but like as I'm doing it here, it is a little bit difficult, and it does kind of look like I'm using the same color or two very similar colors, even though they are two very different colors. But that's really all I have to say for this. Like I said, I did only show this one nail because it is super repetitive, and I didn't want to bore you guys with doing every single nail. So I am just going to let this play out, and then I will be back in a little bit. So now that all that is done, I'm taking my matte top coat from Nails by Dev and applying that to all of the nails. I did decide to go with matte instead of shiny, even though these nails would look really cool shiny as well. But I felt like matte kind of gave that like heat map type of a look a little more than the shiny. I do show, once I get the top coat all applied to all of the nails, I do show before I cure it what it would look like if it was kept shiny, and I just feel like they looked better being matte versus shiny. But like I said, they still look really cool being shiny as well. Also, when you do something like this and you have like different layers of colors like this, like it does look kind of bumpy, and you can like see the different like in between the lines of the different colors, like if that makes any sense. Like they don't look fully connected and they kind of are a little bumpy, but then once you apply the top coat, whether you do a shiny top coat or a matte top coat, it all just kind of ends up smoothing together and just looks like one smooth solid piece. And it is so satisfying to top coat a design like this, because it goes from looking kind of not that great to looking a whole lot better and just like way smoother, or way more smooth, and just better overall once it's all top coated. But after I did get the top coat on, I did go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. And right here is where I show you what they would look like if you were to keep them shiny instead of making them matte. Like I said, they would look really cool being shiny as well. I just felt like matte suited this design a little better. And the Nails by Dev matte top coat is a wipe off top coat. So I am just going in with some alcohol and wiping those off to reveal the matte effect. And honestly, I've noticed with a wipe off top coat, with this Nails by Dev wipe off matte top coat versus your typical no wipe matte top coat, there is no smudging and smearing of your nail art or anything. I know if you watch any of my previous videos before I started using this Nails by Dev matte top coat, I always said to wipe off the nails with alcohol to remove that sticky layer before going in with a matte top coat, because that sticky layer is technically uncured gel, so it does smudge and smear on the nail when you apply a matte top coat. But if you use a no wipe or a wipe matte top coat, then it does not smudge and smear at all, and I absolutely love that. So if you're having issues with smudging and smearing of your nail art when using a matte top coat, I definitely recommend looking into getting a matte top coat that you do have to wipe off in the end, because that just really like changed the game for me, and now I don't worry about my nail art smudging. But anyhow, this is the finished result. Like I said, I really love how this set came out, and I think it looks super cool. And I really do feel like the matte, like making them matte really just sold that like heat map type of design or like look to it, whereas I felt like shiny, it looked more like fluid and almost like lava lamp like, you know, like the little blobs that float around in a lava lamp, whereas with the matte top coat I feel like it's just more, a little more solid, and it really does look more heat map-ish like. And you can see what I meant by the purple showing up more there on the middle nail on that one spot versus all of the others. I do, like I said, I do wish the purple was more prominent on a lot of these spots. I don't mind having some of the spots have a little bit of a purple, like a little purple dot, but for the most part I did want a lot more of them to have more purple on them. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.